We're going to take a few questions. We have a few minutes to do that. And so I'd like to, if anybody would like to ask the panel a question, just please raise your hand. We have a microphone. I don't know if it's on. It's on.
Thank you. I want to first thank you all for being here. As an educator, as Dean Williams alluded to last night in her remarks, you give what we do relevance and meaning. And sometimes we forget that as educators. And Mr. Wiley, I want to remind you that your green blood is also for CPCC.
All right.
So thank you for that. And I hope you have made us very proud, and you are what we work very hard for and get up every day and continue the battle sometimes.
Thank you.
And I hope that our team at CP continues to make you proud as well.
Thank you.
The question I have for all of you is, sometimes as educators we spend time in the classroom and we deliver knowledge. But for me, education is everything that happens outside of the classroom and how to implement that knowledge. And sometimes it's not all about the field of study, but it's about how to learn to survive in society and deal with all the things that challenge us. So if you would, I'd like to take a moment of your time and ask you to each provide about 2 or 3 sentences that I can go back and provide my students. And I'm going to give you the same rule as I give my students. You cannot say, I agree with the last person. It has to be your own thoughts, and Mr. Wiley gets to go first since he's a CPCC alum, and he can pass it along, and the job's easier when you go first.
Right,
Thank you.
exactly. So things that have been impactful, is that the question again?
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, how do you tell a student or convince a student that education is everything outside of the classroom, and how do you get them to start thinking forward in that manner?
Yeah. Wow. Very good question. You know, it comes down to what we all talked about. I mean, number one, you gotta be passionate about whatever it is that you're going to do. To look at things outside of that you're going to learn outside of the classroom really comes from how your impact as a teacher, you know. And like for me, Savannah Clay was huge for me. Professor Clay, we did a stock picking class. Dang, Ted, we got so many similarities. That's why I was laughing and chuckling with you earlier. And so, and she gave examples of things that was going on in the real world. So really, I would place that a little bit on the educators to where, as you're educating, make sure that you're giving real life examples of the things that we're doing, where it's just not so much where it is a textbook thing. So when you find out things that's going on in the current event of how may this apply to what you may be teaching. I mean, even if whether it's mathematics, whether it's history or whatever it is, just make it applicable to the things. And I think that's what students, you know, really get frustrated with, is when it's not relatable. And I think that's in anything in business. When you do business with people, you do things in business with people that you can relate to, and or industries that you want to be involved in, things that are relatable, things that we buy, things that are relatable to the things that we're interested in. So I think the more you can make it more interesting and more relatable, I think it will push the students to go further and to expand on how to apply the things that they're learning in the classroom.
That's great. And the basis for D2C in this format is to bring to the fore a relatability. That's the whole purpose, so that the people on this stage basically could tell their journey without a preachy type of style. So they're telling their journey, and in them you see yourself. In somebody on this stage you see yourself, and you say, you know what, I can do that. That person did it, and they did it with these challenges. So when he talks about relatability, when Arthur talks about relatability, there's a lot that you can relate to if you're an average college student. The struggle, financial struggle, he has many financial struggles that he's gone through. Having to go to Central Piedmont Community College, a great community college, because of finances, he can tell you that struggle. And then transferring to UNC Charlotte, and then becoming what he became once he found his vision. Manny, so we'll come down the line answering that question.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, I think it's a function of, my mom and then my teacher always reiterated this point that it doesn't matter what's, the situation you find yourself in. Always ask yourself those basic tenets, the basic question: the what, the why, the how, and then the whens. For me, one of the things that jumps out of everything in life that makes it exciting is it's always the why. And as long as I keep asking the why, it gives me an excitement to go and dig more, because I realize if I can find a solution to the why, there may lie, the opportunity for great wealth, or great insight, great relationship, or great success. So
Wonderful. Crystal?
As an educator, I would really encourage you to get your students involved, right? To tell them that school is their playground to experiment. It's the opportunity to go forth and try, in a very safe environment, try everything that they could possibly imagine. I think as students, right, we tend to underutilize the facilities because, I'm too busy for this, or I'll figure it out later, not realizing once you graduate, dog, I wish I'd used that rock climbing wall more, or I wish I did X, Y, and Z, because, school really is that great playground to test it out. I was a theater major, right, and then I went on to law school, and in my mind, even now, I have this grand vision of one day being like the Oprah Winfrey of public policy, right? Like convening conversations, making content interesting and accessible so people can be more engaged in the democratic process. Picture that. We can be fun and engaged, right? But all of those things, I got to play with that in college, in law school, by organizations I was a part of, activities I did at school, like networks that I created. Like, I learned how to deal with people who were dissimilar from me ethnically, gender-wise, socioeconomically in college. That's that first interaction. It's like, oh yeah, I can hang out with frat boys, why not? We can have a conversation. And so that's what you encourage students to do. Use this as the playground, as a testing spot to experiment with your wildest dreams.
Wonderful. And Dave?
So let me give advice of my, I have 18-year-old twin boys. I know that hopefully is hard to believe, but I just this weekend proofread one of their speeches for their high school graduation. And I think if I can remember exactly how he put it, it would apply to this. And his point was, as he talked to fellow graduates, he's going to tell them, hey, today your membership in every club that you worked so hard in is over. The sports that you participated in, you're probably not going to also remember the content of most of the tests you took. You may not even remember the content of the classes. But your memories are going to center on one thing, and that's people. You're going to remember in those clubs people who invested in you. You're probably not going to remember the content of your calculus class, but you may remember your passionate calculus teacher who invested time in you. You're going to remember the friends that you went to battle with in the sports, but the conditioning that you have from those sports is going to fade away pretty quick. And so the point being, it's about people. So don't lose sight. You need to work hard, but at the same time, again, you're not going to remember a lot of the material that you learned. The idea is you're building a discipline as you learn that in how do I manage educating myself, investing in people, and making sure I've got people investing in me along the way, because that's really ultimately what you're going to remember. So advice of an 18-year-old. Very good.
Oh, wonderful. And we're going to take this answers from Marlon, Ted, and Scott. And then we're going to break up into, they're going into breakout sessions. Most are. A couple might have to leave. But you'll have a chance to have that interaction, that closer interaction with many of our panelists in a few minutes. So if, Marlon, if you'd be able to answer the question, too, about how to...
These have been some good answers, and I don't have a unique, and I'm not going to try to sit here and think of something earth-shattering for this question, but I just think that you have to be real with your students. Look, we're in college. More and more people have college degrees. What are you going to do with it when you get out? It doesn't automatically entitle you to a job. So use this opportunity to figure out how you're going to get your college degree, because that's only a starting point. And so I would leave you with that.
That's excellent advice. I wish I had that advice when I came out of college. I thought I was entitled to a job and found out very quickly that there were no jobs that thought the same about me. So, Ted, please.
I'm going to direct it to the teachers since both of, I'm sorry. I'm going to direct it to the teachers since both of my parents were educators. One is, I know you said don't say I agree, but I agree 100% with what Arthur said about relatability in that, I struggled in a lot of different ways. In my finance classes, I was a fantastic student. But if I couldn't figure out how I could take this information and actually apply it, it just didn't sit with me. But the other thing is I've always said that if you can't explain something on a 6th grade level, it's because you don't know it well. And, I don't care whether we're going to see an astronaut later on today, but she should probably be able to explain what she does on a very 6th grade level. And I used one of the examples when I was in college. I really, really struggled with statistics, which was the class that was a prerequisite for every other finance class that I needed to take. When I came to work at Morgan Stanley, I took a voluntary 13-week course on evaluating investment portfolios. And the prerequisite to that was a statistics class, go figure. So for 3 days, this professor sat there and taught stats, the same book that I had in college. In 3 days, we covered the entire book, and he made it seem like it was like 5th grade math. But that's the difference between how you deliver it.
Excellent, excellent. And Scott?
I think education has the ability to be deceptive by asking the primary question of what are you going to do? And I think your question's insightful because there is a lot that we need to learn outside the classroom sometimes, which is who are you going to be? And so my encouragement to a lot of students that I'm with is, your first couple jobs may not matter. It may matter who you work with. There's a study, the Barna Group did a study, and turns out that in our human development, somewhere between ages 16 and 25, we form 75% of our long-term philosophical habitual decisions. That's who we become in that time period. And I'll just tell you from my life, who I hung around with during that time formed a large part of that. So I probably would take a job with a great leader and a great person I wanted to be like over the job that maybe would help me maybe look better on my resume. It's a toss-up, but it's something to think about.
Well, thank you, Scott. And there were several gems that came through during that question, so thanks for that question.